Talking about ethics in clinical research. First of all, good clinical practices guidelines. The first was the Nuremberg Code, which was found after the Nuremberg trial, also known as a doctor's trial. This is a beautiful film available on Blu-ray. You can have a look at it. It's beautifully made. So Nuremberg Code basically works with researching risk benefit analysis. Research risk benefit analysis. These points should be thoroughly memorized for your NEET PG exams, USMLE exams, any part of the world you're living in, PLAB even. These points they are asked in your exams because ethics is extremely important. Then competence of investigators. Competence of investigators. And last but not the least, this is the first trial in which voluntary consent was the first to be introduced. This is obviously very times asked in exams, that voluntary consent in research was asked in which. So your answer will be, it was asked in Nuremberg Code, voluntary consent in research. Okay, then after the Nuremberg Code came the Helsinki Declaration, the Declaration of Helsinki. This will help you, all those MD pharmacology students, like it helped me in my MD studies. I had to make a research, like I had to make a seminar on good clinical practices. So these are the guidelines which underlie good clinical practices and ethics also in clinical practice. Helsinki Declaration. Whenever you do any clinical research, in Helsinki Declaration, there are individual rights to make informed decisions. Individual rights to make informed decisions. Investigators' duties. There are specific duties of the principal investigator, like the thesis which I did in my MD time. I was a principal investigator. So investigators' duties. Research participants. In the case of research participants, you have to look for their welfare as well as their vulnerability. Both these points have to be carefully looked into. Research participants' welfare and vulnerability. After that, the third thing that came into action, first Nuremberg Code, then Helsinki Declaration, then a Belmont report was synthesized. This Belmont report was synthesized in the year 1978-1979. Nuremberg Code 1947, the year India got independence. Easy to memorize. Helsinki Declaration 1964 and Belmont report 1978-79, which talks about three key points. Autonomy, that is the total independence and freedom of the study subject to participate in the research. His or her choice. If he or she wants to quit the study at any time, I'll repeat, he or she can do so freely, and no one has any right to force anyone into a clinical trial. That's a crime, paap. Okay. The 3 points here important are autonomy, justice and beneficence. Autonomy, justice and beneficence. That is the benefit of the patient or the person. We don't call it patient, person, the study subjects. Yeah. Then other important points it talked about is informed consent. There was not an inkling about informed consent. So where was informed consent first used? Voluntary consent was in Nuremberg Code. Informed consent is in Belmont report. Okay. Informed consent, and one important point which was raised was review by ethics committee, also known as the EC. This was Belmont report came into action after the Tuskegee syphilis study. This is extremely important. Do read about it on Google. It's a very interesting study, a very painful one, I agree. But because of this unethical treatment of doctors on patients, this prompted the formation of Belmont report. You need to remember these two things by heart for your BCBR exam, basic course in biomedical research. The Tuskegee syphilis study led to the Belmont report making, and the Nuremberg trial or the doctor's trial led to formation of the Nuremberg Code. Then after that we come to CIOMS. This stands for Council for International Organizations on Medical Science, and WHO. CIOMS and WHO guidelines in the year 1992-93. They basically talk about one extremely important thing, that is adverse drug reactions and safety of research participants. This is the first time someone actually spoke about safety of research participants, and adverse drug reaction. Safety and adverse drug reaction, first it was spoken in CIOMS. This can also be asked in your BCBR exam. Then this is followed by the benefit risk balance. Always we know whenever you give a drug, a benefit is afforded but a risk is also taken. The benefit risk ratio is extremely important. Then it is the first one which talked about pharmacovigilance, principles of pharmacovigilance. Remember, now it is a hot spot, it is a hot topic for everyone. A lot of money is there, lakhs and crores of rupees in pharmacovigilance, but it started where years back, 1992-93. Then make informed decision. This was already spoken about in the Belmont report here. Make informed decisions, informed consent, respect for autonomy, duties and responsibilities of investigators, welfare and protection of research participants. All this, investigators' duties, all this was reiterated. All these facts were reiterated again from the Belmont, from the Helsinki Declaration. Okay, after that I'll be talking about the latest guidelines which we follow nowadays in our clinical trials. Is point number 5, International Council on Harmonization adopted good clinical practices in the year 96, and incorporating this we found our own guidelines, that is the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, which incorporated principles of good clinical practices. The year is important. देखो 2000 जमाना आ गया, मिल के जीने का बहाना आ गया, बच के रहना दीवाना हूँ मैं, देखो 2000 जमाना आ गया. A beautiful song from the film Meela. ICMR guidelines formulated in the year 2000. So it is a millennial year. So you will remember this, I know that. Then talking about the ethical principles. Although I have spoken about it when I was telling you about all these codes, I'll just be briefly elucidating them again. Autonomy, that is self-rule, respecting human dignity, justice, fair and impartial, beneficence, fair and correct, maximizing benefits and minimizing harm. Extremely important. I'm writing this because this is many oftentimes asked in your BCBR exam. Non-maleficence, that is first do no harm. This is a cornerstone of non-maleficence. Wrong to waste resources. When conducting research involving adolescents, we take an assent from the participant. There is a difference between assent and consent. Assent, I'll tell you, when they are not adults, we take assent. Always remember this. Don't take consent. We take assent. Assent is the affirmative agreement of the participant to participate, in research. Consent from parent is obviously required, and consent from legally accepted representative is required if parent is unavailable. Then talking about in the case of genetic research on human subjects. If you are planning to do genetic research on human subjects, you need two important guidelines. First is National Ethical Guideline for biomedical and health research. Involving human participants. This was formulated by the ICMR in the year 2017, that is 8 years back. The second one which you need to remember is the genome policy and genetic research. Genome policy and genetic research. This was formulated in 2000. These two are important in genetic research. Bye.